It's my accountancy exam tomorrow, and here I am talking about Jean-Paul Sartre. But who cares? So, I have been reading a lot of Jean-Paul Sartre's philosophies and his ideas regarding various subjects and topics, and what uh, why I have been leaning towards his works is because of my obsession with Albert Camus' philosophy. He is literally my guy, and I respect him one of the most as a thinker and as a philosopher, because his philosophy has had a huge impact on my life. So if you aren't aware, Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus lived around the same time, and they had a very famous friendship and even a more famous fallout. So that is what interested me about Jean-Paul Sartre. That what kind of guy could challenge, Albert Camus' philosophy of absurdism, and it turns out he is a pretty interesting guy himself. So today we are going to talk about him, and uh, I'm going to touch on very specific topics here, especially the his stance on the concept of freedom and what freedom means. So I want to quote one line which Jean-Paul Sartre said, which is, your freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Your freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Now, most of us have this idea of freedom, America, liberty, freedom, and we think that freedom is you know, freedom is the attribute that grants us the power to choose to be anything we want to be, to choose to do anything we want to do, or to simply choose anything. And I think while that's a very flawed position, and I won't get into that, there are other philosophers on the other side of the spectrum who think that there is no such thing as freedom, or to say more specifically, free will. But there's also a very small difference between free will and freedom. While free will talks about our inherent will to choose something, freedom talks about our the choices involved in our path in order to act out a particular way. So I won't get into a very fundamental differences between those two, because I think that can be a topic for another video. And to be honest, I haven't discovered that very much. But what I want to focus on here is this quote: your freedom is what you do with what's being done to you. Now let's just focus on the second part of the statement. Your freedom is what you do, keep that aside, with what's being done to you. So what's being done to us? That is what Sartre and many others, many existentialists, define as a facticity. Now, this is a statement I wrote in my notes. My facticity is all the facts about myself which cannot be changed. My age, sex, height, class of origin, race, nationality. For example, uh, later Sartre comes to include in facticity more psychological elements of genetic and environmental origin. So basically, if I had to summarize, a facticity is something which cages a man into being a particular way, into acting a particular way, or to uh, to have particular characteristics, whether it is biological, psychological, based on geography, based on culture. These all kinds of conditions which we are born into are known as our facticity. So generally, it is a very general view that these facticity limit our freedom. If I am born in a poor country, there are I have fewer choices than a person who might be born in a more, who has been born in a more privileged position. So while that's an idea in itself, Jean-Paul Sartre rejects that idea. He says that facticity does not negate freedom. And why does he say so? Because no matter where we are born, no matter what we do, no matter any of the facticities limiting our so-called choices, we still have an infinite number of choices. Let's say you are a student right now, and you are studying in a particular school or college, At any given point of time, at any and every given points of time, you have the ability to leave your education and become a terrorist, become a serial killer. No one's stopping you from doing that. Then you might say that, okay, my moral stance does not allow me to become a terrorist. My moral stance does not allow me to become a sociopath, a psychopathic killer. But what is a moral stance anyway? You can change your morality, and many people have changed their morality. If you can move upward in the landscape of morality, you can also come downward. So again, morality, then you might say that, okay, I don't have enough strength, enough willpower to become a terrorist, or enough connections to become a psychopath. I'm sorry, this is a very dark example, but yeah. So even those kinds of limitations can be crossed by human will. You can, if you choose to, at any and every given point of time, mm, act in particular manners, or try to find ways to overcome those barricades, and it's not that hard. What I am trying to get at here is that none of your facticities, whether they are biological, whether they are cultural, whether they are psychological, whether they are geographical, limit your capacity to choose. And to choose is what Sartre defines as freedom. Okay, there are two major terms which we need to be aware of here in my notes: a priori and a posteriori. Posteriori, sorry for the mispronunciation. A priori and a posteriori refer to how or on what basis a proposition might be known. In general terms, a proposition is knowable a priori if it is knowable independently of experience, while a proposition is knowable a posteriori if it is knowable on the basis of experience. So, um, Sartre tries to, he's an existentialist, and what existentialists do is generally to derive some kind of meaning of our existence, and to derive a kind of purpose to our lives. So in the pursuit to do the same, what he considers a better approach is eliminating all kinds of a prioris. He doesn't believe in a priori concepts such as God or science that control human nature. So he traces it back from experience. So what we experience and what we have experienced in the past and the past and the past lead back to the central meaning of life, rather than fixating our minds on a particular a priori like science, the principles of science, or the principles of God. So in some manner you can call his philosophy a little bit leaning towards atheism, exactly like Albert Camus. So there's a little bit of overlap there, and I think this was one of the first examples of phenomenological approach towards life, towards meaning, because Sartre tried to explore the meaning of human life through experience. What we experience and how it shapes us is a far more evident result of our purpose, rather than built up concepts like science and God, which supposedly direct all human actions. So I think I just wanted to talk about these two things, which was the second half was regarding the existentialist stance of Sartre, but the first one was what mainly caught my eye, which was his stance on freedom. Because personally, I have been a believer that you know there is no such thing as freedom, and no matter how no matter how you structure it, some people are just more free than others. But he has a very compelling argument that not all people have the same, if not uncomparable amounts of freedom. And he also has a very famous line: not all victims are innocent. Victim in Sartre's analysis represent victim of facticities. So when we try to blame the facticities laid upon us for our unsuccessful nature, like suppose if I fail a test, I would more likely be blaming the environment which I gave the test on, or the loud background music playing, so that I couldn't focus on the test. uh, and I would lean less towards my under preparation, which is what I'm doing right now, because tomorrow is my exam and I should be studying. But anyway, so this is me acting as a victim, and I'm clearly not innocent here if I haven't studied. But by using my facticities to my advantage, I can, prove that, oh, I had no choice. The music was too loud while I was giving the test and I was distracted. My computer froze when I gave the test, so I couldn't attempt a particular section. An excuse which I have not used before. So I think these kinds of concepts are built upon the phenomenological aspect of the pursuit to meaning. And all right. If you don't know about phenomenology, I wrote a definition here because I also recently discovered it. It is the science of phenomena as distinct from that of the nature of being. So phenomenology is again the same thing, that you try to look at phenomena and and you try to work your way back to causation, instead of having a hypothesis about the causations and predicting or matching the phenomenons resulting from your made up hypothesis, like again god or science. And trying to include science very hard so that I uh, do not come off as completely atheistic. So that was my discovery on Sartre. It was a very short sample of what I have read and what I have studied over the past few weeks. But honestly, if I could get into that very well, I would, but the video would be 2 hours long. So I think these were the most central concepts which I need to remember. So yeah, okay. Now I need to go to study. Bye.